All right, so let's talk about this REX suit. And this is like it's not even the whole suit. It's just an op-ed that they wrote about this lawsuit.
Who wrote it,
So
though?
REX executives, they take aim at Zillow in an op-ed. Quote, "We had no choice but to sue." So if you've read Sun Tzu's Art of War, if you haven't read it, you need to read it because this type of tactic is in there. Okay. So REX, the real estate co-founder and CEO Jack Ryan, isn't afraid to make waves in the industry, and now he's done it again with his fellow REX co-founder and president Lindley Sides. Sides is her last name, in an op-ed co-written for Real Clear Markets released on Friday. So the most information I've ever gained from REX has actually been from Inman. Like Inman covered the lawsuit, and now they're covering the op-ed about the lawsuit. But this op-ed is, quote, "Why we are taking on Zillow in its own backyard." It was written by Ryan and Sides, and they say that the discount brokerage couldn't stand by while Zillow and the National Association of Realtors, and they use this word that is made to bring up something inside of you. And I'm not telling you how to feel, but I'm kind of offended that they're even using this word, because that's not all right. So they couldn't just stand by while Zillow and the National Association of Realtors segregated discount brokerages from traditional brokerages on Zillow's site so that consumers are less likely to view the listings. Now, this goes back to an article that we covered a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even a month ago. Whenever they filed the lawsuit, they said that basically Zillow now has a different tab. Zillow joined the National Association of Realtors. When they did, they have to abide by the rules that the National Association of Realtors set up, which includes showing an IDX feed of the properties. So they're showing this IDX feed, and then they have this other tab with other properties that feed into their website, from for sale by owner homes to people that are not a member of the National Association of Realtors, being REX or REX. Quote, "Because expanding access to affordable housing is REX's primary goal, we had no choice but to sue Zillow for adopting NAR's segregation rule. The rule banishes homes sold by low commission brokers like REX," which Grant is in the audience, and he has a 1% list brokerage. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this in a minute, Grant. "Because expanding access to affordable housing is REX's primary goal, we had no choice but to sue Zillow for adopting the segregation rule. The rule banishes homes by low commission brokers like REX to deceptively labeled tab on Zillow that few people ever notice."
Banishes.
Yeah, banishes. Former United States Department of Justice economist. Now, this is interesting because we've talked about Rex's political relationships in the past, and now they have some people coming out of the woodwork that have backed them, that are maybe former Republican
senators and
senators. And basically, they're almost all Republican here, which is kind of weird for me. But NAR has kind of started this fight by taking some stances that were traditionally liberal and kind of left-leaning and supporting some of that side. So because we're a political group and that's what we've done, now we have Rex, who's now got some kind of weird conservative support, including the former United States Department of Justice economist Robert Maguire.
And Chris Christie's one of them.
Yep, Chris Christie's one of them. Anyway, Rex's expert witness. They calculate that some homes receive more than 5 times more views on Zillow and default search page created to comply with the segregation rule designed to protect high commissions of NAR's members than on the hidden search page of where REX listings are now found.
Banished.
You shall not pass.
You shall not pass.
Right. As the MLS this is another quote from them in their.
By the way, wait. I want you to keep going, but can I clear up something?
Yeah.
Gandalf does say "fly, you fools." He doesn't say "run." He says "fly." Anyway, okay.
Yeah, that's true. Inman. Actually, I'm reading The Hobbit to the kids right now. By the way,
very cool.
Yeah. Inman reached out to Zillow for comment. Blah blah blah. They didn't. They just resaid, "We believe that REX claims are without merit." Okay. Yeah. As MLS, this is another quote from their op-ed. "As MLS participants, we are required to abide by the MLS rules and regulations." Oh, this is what Zillow said. I'm sorry. This is what Zillow said. "We are always advocating for the rules that benefit our consumers and the entire industry to drive innovation for all. This is another quote from the op-ed. Time and again, potential disruptors in the industry, including now Zillow, have catapulted to the very rules that protect the legacy industry players and are now trying to replace. The op-ed reads, leadership is needed. Real estate professionals need to stand up for their consumers and not look the other way when old restrictions like NAR's segregation rule rear its ugly head and bare their fangs.
Jeez.
This is so dramatic.
So this
Basically,
is just
can I boil it down? Let me just boil it down. You're not a member of the National Association of Realtors. Therefore, you don't get to participate in the feed that is given by the boards from the National Association of Realtors.
100%.
That's
like
it.
There's no nefarious plot against you.
There's nothing keeping Rex from joining the National Association of Realtors. All you got to do is join and pay the stupid $1,000 that we all pay a year to feed your properties. And if you refuse to pay the $1,000 to better serve your clients by giving more access to the consumer to see your properties, then maybe you should be in business.
Yeah. So maybe this is all just a marketing ploy, and it's just literally your marketer said, just sue Zillow. That'll get us some headlines. That'll get us some listings. That's it.
Yes. Marketing by lawsuit. That is what we are seeing. The number one way that I've heard about Rex is from Inman's coverage of the lawsuit. That's it.
Yeah, I think we mentioned them a couple years ago when it was like, hey, new. Remember when it was like every month there was a new disruptor coming to take our business, right? And we mentioned them. Hey, they have this new platform, whatever. But then they went away until all of these lawsuits, and they're so it's 100% a marketing strategy when they could just join a broker, join NAR like we all do. And your listings will be there. And by the way, they can't all of a sudden, because they have to pay $1,000 a year, by the way, it's not going to all of a sudden, oh, well, we can't do the low fee thing. We can't do that.
Chris Murray said, banished.
Like op-ed, banished.
Banished. That's how you say it in the old King James version. Lisa Perks said, it's called the NAR segregation rule. No, it's not called that, but that's what they're calling that because they want to try to fan the flames of racism. Chris Murray said, if the Rex platform is so good, why do they need any other platform? Exactly. And someone else asked,
great question.
Is Rex putting non-Rex properties on their own feed on their website? Is that happening?
They're saying they want everyone
right now and just get a free feed.
So, but are they putting Zillow's property on their website?
Lisa Perk said, I'm not a realtor and I'm not complaining that I can't get into the MLS. Yet she used to be. She's a former realtor, Lisa Perk, now real estate agent, right, Lisa? Yeah. So,
but that's the thing, though, is Zillow, by the way, and I hate to take Zillow's back, or have Zillow's back, or take Zillow's side, but they're saying no. If your platform is good enough, then it'll get
Zillow. Zillow is saying, oh, it's not our fault. It's the NAR. So they're taking a little less of a stance on that. I mean, they are saying the suit is without merit. All right. So let me, I want to, you guys raise your hands if you want to comment on this specifically. I see App, I see Jan, Jen, Carly, Peggy, Roy, you guys that already follow, some of you that I don't down there. Feel free to come up to the top, but I want to get Grant's perspective because he has a brokerage that's a 1% listing brokerage. So Grant, what do you think about this REX lawsuit? Is it with merit? Is it without merit? Are you feeling the same pain and struggle, or are you handling this differently in your business?
Okay. So normally I disagree with what Rex does, but let me ask you guys a question just to kind of have a healthy debate. And for the record, I am a member of NAR and all of my agents are members of NAR. But if you're required to join NAR to do an essential form of our business, then, I mean, is it really an elective thing to join NAR, or is a gun basically held to your head and say, join NAR or else?
No,
because
you can
that's
get
kind of what.
What is the essential thing that you're referring to?
Well, if their listings, and basically what's happening is their listings are being segregated and put off into a different pile with for sale by owners. And I understand that Rex is kind of out there with a lot of the stuff that they do, and they aren't really comparable to us, so I'm not making an argument for Rex. If anything, like what we do is more like a pro agent Redfin is what we are. And whereas Rex is basically out to almost abolish buyer's agency altogether. which is a completely different thing. But like effectively, their listings will not display anywhere
But
without them being
can I ask you a
required to join
question?
NAR. And NAR is not out there to look out for the public's best interests. They're out there looking out for the best interests of realtors.
So,
I have a question though. I have 2 questions.
All right, go ahead and do your follow-up question, Dan.
Okay, so the first one's the statement. Zillow was for the longest time not a member of NAR, and they got plenty of traffic through their website. Right? That's A. They didn't, because Adam says almost every national brokerage and local association makes NAR a requirement. But Zillow did something on their own. Starting in 2007, they became the most visited website monthly for real estate somehow without being a member of NAR. They somehow did that. Okay, I'm just going to say that. But also my next one is, so if I own a bagel shop and Ray owns a bagel shop, right, and we both sell the same bagels, am I going to get mad that Ray doesn't advertise my bagels on his website?
That's an interesting way to look at it. I've not thought about it as a bagel shop owner.
You totally broke up. You totally broke up. I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, so he was saying, if he owns a bagel shop and I own a bagel shop, can he get mad that I don't display his bagels in my shop or sell his bagels?
Yeah. Why isn't he selling my bagels in his shop or on his website?
So Adam Johnson says almost every national brokerage and local association makes NAR a requirement. These are good questions. NAR looks out for NAR. Yes. Okay. MLS access is what Lisa Perk said is the essential function of being a real estate agent.
But then make sure he hears the part about
Lisa Perk said, Dan, you were smart today.
I mean,
so here, Grant, let me come back to you. What do you think about Dan's proposition?
Well, it depends on the situation. Basically, by joining a board, we all agree to share information through the Internet Data Exchange. So we all agree to effectively share that information. And so my point is that, some people might have a philosophical difference with NAR. And so if you have a philosophical difference with NAR, should you be required to join NAR in order to participate? That's the question.
So yes and no. I agree with you a lot because I've said this on the show a lot. NAR has to innovate or they're going to die. I've also said that I foresee a time in the future in which the MLS access splits away from NAR, where NAR becomes a totally different body and the MLS becomes a totally different thing as well, because I just don't see it sustaining, as evident by the DOJ's rule, where they said even if you're not a realtor, you should have access to the lock boxes that are put on houses if you're a member of Century Lock Supra, all that stuff.
Or as long as you're licensed, and we've had that conversation. Right. But because there was some of you have to allow people access to homes that aren't licensed. That's an issue. But as long as you're licensed and it's verifiable, sure.
So in order for this, so I agree with NAR on one side. I disagree with them on another. Where I agree with them, they spent all the money and they built this thing for real estate agents to use to distribute the properties. It's a far cry from the old book that people used to print out, didn't even have photos, right? So they've come a long way. They've innovated. They've created this back office intranet, you could argue. In Houston, they've created an incredible facing consumer website.
Yeah.
Right. So there are boards around the country that are doing different things with the money and board dues that people are giving them. Should those boards be forced to list alongside of someone like Rex or someone that's not a part of the board? In my opinion, no.
Yes.
I don't think so. You can't build your business on something that someone else built without being a part of that group that helped build the thing. If their requirement,
I totally agree with that.
Well, hang on, Grant. If their requirement is, in order for you to use this thing, you have to be a member and agree with these basic tenets and principles, with the ethics of being a real estate agent, with operating how we want to operate, and agreeing to pay someone who actually shows your property that you're going to list this thing in. If you don't agree to these basic tenets and you don't pay the money to be a part of this thing, then no, you cannot be in it. So I think that is their right, which is any board around the country. I think it's their right to do that. Now, in my opinion, do I agree that I should have to pay all this money to NAR for that privilege? No. But right now, that's the system that's set up. So until that system changes, I think the lawsuit is completely without merit, and there's nothing that Rex can do. And the DOJ would be stupid in order to okay this, to force Zillow. And Zillow is a totally different platform, you could argue, right? And Rex is trying to build their business on someone else's platform again, instead of building it on their own platform. And so I think if you're going to build a business, building on someone else's platform, especially if you're not a member, is incredibly dangerous and disingenuous to your customers, clients, and employees. If you don't have the clout to build your own platform, using a lawsuit in order to try to gain exposure to that, I think is cheap. I think it not only tells me something about your business, I think it tells me something about you as a person too. So that's my take on it, Grant. What do you think?
Yeah, so I understand that argument. And look, I'm not saying that NAR shouldn't exist. What I'm saying is I believe personally it's an antitrust issue to require somebody to join NAR in order to have access to the MLS. I don't think that's right. And I can give you a perfect example. So we had part of our advertising. Someone turned us in to the real estate commission and said that they didn't like part of how our advertising was done. And so we sat down with the real estate commission and they said, we really think for transparency, it should look like this. And we agreed. And we're like, no, I think this is more transparent for the consumer. Totally agree. And then once we changed to that policy, somebody immediately filed a NAR complaint against us saying we were being anti-realtor. And so it's important for, realtors, real estate agents, whatever you want to call ourselves. We always trump how awesome we are for our clients. But really, the National Association of Realtors, if you follow the money, what they're about is having more and more paying realtors. That's really what they're about. I mean, that's where you follow the money down the rabbit hole. That's where it goes, is how many realtors can we get signed up? And it's not pro client, it's not pro consumer, it's pro realtor. And that's okay. But
That's what they're built for, though.
The real estate commissions are there to protect the consumer. NAR is not there to protect the consumer.
I don't think the real estate commissions are there to protect the consumer at all. I mean, when you look at the real estate commission, the contracts they form are to protect the realtors and the consumer. So I think it's a little bit both ways. But I get your greater point.
Yeah.
That in order for this to happen, that the boards would have to no longer be associated with the National Association of Realtors, a political organization, but instead would have to be associated with the state, Arkansas, the real estate commissions of whatever state, Arkansas, Texas real estate commissions, whatever real estate commission, they could take on the boards, and then the government then would have the expense of maintaining the board, right? So if that happens, I would totally agree that in that case, if you're a real estate agent, you are paying the fees to be a real estate licensed realtor or real estate agent in your area. And because you are a licensed real estate agent in your area, you should have access to the board. But that's not how it's set up now.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think if I gave you guys like a month to do research, you could find another political action group like NAR that in another sort of business that has that much control? Because effectively, if you don't have access to the MLS,
pizza group.
Right.
I used to own a pizza restaurant, man. There's a pizza group that is like serious mafia. So yeah, they're all over the place.
Well, no, but it's not. Hang on. So basically having access to the MLS and having your listings shared through the Internet Data Exchange it's integral to business. And if you look up like real estate in the digital age, you will see that, of the silent generation, like the people born prior to World War II, if they're still alive, they're spending like 75% of their time searching online for real estate. I mean, it's impossible to run a successful real estate company and not be a part of the MLS and have the IDX. Now, I agree with you on REX. They should not be out promoting that they don't need the MLS and then turn around and sue because they don't have access to the MLS.
Right.
But my point is that, you can't go be a dentist and say, yeah, congratulations, you're a dentist. But unless you join this political group, you're not going to have access to floss or a dental chair or to lighting or to any of these things. That doesn't exist.
It does.
From everything I can see.
So it does. It's not as evidence because it's not as consumer facing in a lot of these organizations. But yes, it absolutely does. It wouldn't take a month to do it. You give me a week and I could give you a couple. But
well, I mean, you could just go find any lobbyist right now for any big pharma, cigarettes, whatever. Yeah. That's all political action committees. They're all out there. We don't need a month to find that. So,
but I want to take issue. I want to take issue with the presumption that being a part of the MLS is necessary to do business, and it's not.
It's not at all.
If you rely completely on exposure from the MLS
you'll fail.
order to do your business, that is a business model, but that's not the best business model. We regularly get 10, 20, 100 times the views of our properties outside of the MLS and outside of Zillow. We beat Zillow by 10 times on our exposure for the property. So,
and har.com is also proof of.
Well, I mean, that is a way to use your board for good, right? But for us, we're not relying on that at all. And we use the MLS. We use the MLS to find other properties. But one of the things that I'm doing lately is calling a whole bunch of agents in the real estate market and saying, hey, I've got clients that are looking for this. Do you have anything coming? Because right now, if you're only relying on the MLS to find properties for your buyers, you're losing out on a ton of transactions. So it's another situation in this market that the MLS is not providing the quote easy access for real estate agents to do their job because there's so many properties being sold off market. So yes, you can be a real estate agent, massively successful. You can have a massively successful real estate business and not be a part of the National Association of Realtors. There's another group out there that you could join if you want to. I think it's called the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which was created during the segregation period. And it's a lot of African-American brokers and minority brokers have joined that group instead of the National Association of Realtors. So, and a lot of them are massively successful and are not necessarily a part of the MLS in the same way we are. So I think you can be massively successful and not be a part of the real estate trade group, the National Association of Realtors. However, I would love for a lot of what the National Association of Realtors does to be broken away from the multiple listing service, because like you, I don't necessarily like to pay my dues and don't agree with everything that they do. But does that mean that they don't have the right to conduct it in the way they are? No, they're perfectly able and right to do it exactly like they are. I don't think it's antitrust because you do have the ability to be successful without it.
So I guess, sorry, I'm echoing.
I'm sorry. Julie says hi. Hi, Julie.
Hi. And by the way, I
don't understand how anybody could make the argument that it is a benefit to the client to not be a member of the MLS. Okay, so literally just putting something in the MLS and the Internet Data Exchange, taking it and putting on every website basically for real estate in the country, really the world, just that alone is by far the most powerful tool for selling a house. It's by far the most powerful tool. Okay.
No, you can argue that photos.
And so, no, dude, and I mean, come on. That at some point it's like that's arguing the chicken or the egg. That's like saying, oh, well, you can't make a hamburger without making wheat in a field. Well, yeah, true. But the whole point is placing something on the MLS with professional photos. Sure. Okay. That is by far the most powerful tool for selling a house. And you can easily make a common sense argument that you cannot do justice for your client by not putting it on the MLS. You know,
you can, because in the number of homes sold before listed, just look up in your MLS how many homes sold before listed recently. How many people sold a home without ever touching the market? Because this is the thing that the National Association of Realtors was trying to prevent with the coming soon regulation, right? That they did not effectively prevent. Because what the regulation said is, hey guys, no more coming soon listings. You got to list these things on the market so they get proper exposure.
Right.
But what's happening now is that now they're being sold before listed, and they're being sold before listed in the same way they were previously, in which they were being sold in-house among these various brokerages. We have something else called the private listing service, which they were trying to get off the board, and the coming soon listing really kind of slammed them into the ground, because
pocket listing service,
pocket listing service. That's what it was. And now I think I don't know if they actually got through the lawsuit, but there was a similar lawsuit to what Rex is complaining, where, hey, we should be able to list these homes on here without being a part of this, if that's what the client wants to do. Instead, you're forcing all of your trade members to go your way. But people have the option of not being a trade member and conducting business. So I understand the gripe, Grant, and because I have some of that gripe as well, but the way it's currently set up is the way it's set up. And I don't think that it's a Sherman antitrust situation. I think that's the wrong angle. I think in order to compete with the NAR, you essentially have to do what Zillow did. build your own compelling platform for people, including real estate agents, to join in order to market the properties. And then once you do, you have a foothold in the industry. But for whatever reason, no one really saw this coming. Zillow instead joined the NAR and became part of it instead of creating their own situation and encouraging people to leave NAR, which would have been an interesting battle. You know, which one do you get more exposure from, your MLS or Zillow? If you look at the numbers, it's plain to see that Zillow gets about 4 times the exposure as your
And
MLS.
Zillow did that without being a member of any MLS.
Right. But they get exposure to the consumer, whereas you could argue that 4 times of exposure that you're getting to one real estate agent, maybe they're working with multiple clients, but we know from the next article we cover that a lot of realtors are not. Adam Johnson said, sold before listed isn't an argument for not putting it on the MLS. Who knows what would have sold for if it was exposed to the market, full market.
Bingo.
Well, also, it could have sold for a lot less. There have been people that have put in offers that are insanely high, cash offers, to keep that property from hitting the market because their fear is greater than the market valuation. And that's happening too.
Can I poke a hole in that?
No. So we're going to have to move on. We can sit on this and talk for days on this. No. So basically what we're looking at is 2 business options. We have one business option in which you can be a part of the MLS and conduct business. In order to do that, you have to pay the fee to be a part of it. And they're not preventing anyone from being a part of that. Everyone can pay
or not being a part of that.
And until that's changed, I don't think it's a Sherman antitrust thing, because that would mean that, hey, I'm not going to let you be a part of this because of your business model, because of whatever you're doing. You can't physically join. That is an antitrust issue. You can't do it, right? So they're not preventing anyone from joining. Rex can join. Anyone can join. Now, the separate issue is, should NAR and the MLSs be so closely tied that the only way to have access to the MLS is through the NAR? That's a different debate and a different issue, and not currently what is coming up for debate. So interesting discussion, but I think you can make an argument for both ways. Everyone who's saying you can't do business without the MLS, in my opinion, it's a lazy way to look at it. We look at our own numbers, and we know from our own numbers and from our own marketing that we destroy the views that the MLS and Zillow gives without relying on the MLS or Zillow. So yes, you can save your fees of what it would cost you to join the MLS and then put those towards your own marketing, your own video, your own production, your own website, and you're saving those fees, right? But what's true is that the fees that NAR charges are less than the cost of joining and getting the additional exposure. And that's where they get you, quote unquote. That's what dads like to say. That's where they get you.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got to move on. We've got one more story to cover. Thanks, Grant, for joining the conversation. I really appreciate your input. I love having a voice that is not always like agreeable. I love
100%.
having someone that's kind of on the other side of it, because it just makes us think better. So I really appreciate you joining the show, Grant. And Grant, tell me, let me bring you back up again. Grant, tell me your last name and what market you work to.
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Oh, I was saying, tell me your last name, Grant, so people can find you, and also what market you work.
Yeah. My name is Grant. Last name is Clayton, Clayton. We're based out of New Orleans, but we're franchising across the country. We're getting ready to open Connecticut, Texas. We're already through most of the East Coast.
By the way, here in California, we already have
really appreciate your
my company.
Oh, sorry, he's cutting out.
Oh, well, it's kind of breaking up now. Sorry about that, man. But thanks so much for joining the show. We really appreciate your input.